So the other day I was talking about taking refuge and generating the altruistic intention, and I focused on the refuge part, and today I'm going to focus on the bodhicitta part. So just in review, there's 3 reasons why we go for refuge, and to make it a Mahayana refuge, I'll talk about the 3rd one as well. So the first reason is that we're afraid of what's coming up, not just in this life, not in cyclic existence, but the potential plunge into the lower realms. And so that gets me. I don't know if it gets you, but it gets me. And then the second reason we go for refuge is we have faith in the 3 jewels. And so to cultivate that, we really look at the qualities of the 3 jewels. And the 3rd reason is this sense of compassion to benefit everybody. And this is what makes the refuge a Mahayana refuge. So going back to my experience at Kopan in 2003, doing this Vajrasattva retreat, I would say the refuge words and the generating altruistic intention words, and then I would just think, okay, that's done. I'm going to the purification part, and I would really have a lot of regret, and that was really heartfelt, and I would spend most of my time on that part of the practice, and it brought fruit for sure. But then at a certain point, I kind of got sick of my own stories. And it was sort of like to the point of gagging. And fortunately, I came across some other resources that helped me. I didn't have, the option that you're having right now of hearing teachings 3 times a week on the practice, or talks, whatever they are. So my best friends on the retreat, in addition to Venerable Chödrön's Lam Rim outline, was Lama Zopa's book, this one, which is quite daunting in size, but by the end of the retreat, there were so many pages, markers stuck in here, I couldn't close the book. So it was very valuable. And then the other book, which is, I would take it on an island if I was left there, is Geshe Tegchok's book, Transforming Joy, Transforming Adversity into Joy and Courage. So I think what I would like to share with you, and this book falls open at this part actually, it's broken here. Had I read these words at the beginning of the retreat, I would not have understood it, because I had to go through my own junk and get somewhere in having a sense that I was bringing peace to these issues that were driving me nuts and haunting me and causing me great misery. And so finally, one day, probably it was 6 weeks in, I encountered this section by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And the book is really broken here, you can see, because I kept reading it over and over again. And I think the day I found this, I wanted to go, yes! But we were in silence, so I think inside I went. And so I'd like to read to you some of it. And so up until this point, I think the image that comes to mind is that my practice was like a garden hose that had a big kink at the end of it. So there was this little tiny dribble coming out of the nozzle. And then when I read these pages and started doing what Lama Zopa suggested, it was like someone said, hey, you're stuck over there. It was sort of like whoosh, and there was this big stream. So first of all, he said, and this is what Venerable Chödrön advised us to do, is to look at Shantideva's text and see the benefits of bodhicitta. Lama Zopa quotes this: how can one measure the merits one collects by generating the precious thought that is the cause of all happiness, of all transmigratory beings, and the medicine that cures the suffering of all sentient beings? Bodhicitta. So that got my attention. But then what really got me going is this section where he says, now when you do the Vajrasattva sadhana or other practices, even though they begin with the bodhicitta motivation, when you come to the mantra recitation, again, just before you begin to recite the mantra, as I've already mentioned it a few times during some of the sessions, dedicate very precisely by thinking, each mantra I recite is for every hell being. Each mantra is for every hungry ghost. Each mantra is for every animal. Each mantra is for every human. Each mantra is for every sura, asura, intermediate state being, and so on. And that just lit my mind on fire. Now I could use my obsession with the mantra and use it to benefit just not piddly old me, this one puny me, but I could bring in all sentient beings. And I just can't tell you how happy I was the day I read that. And it really transformed every single practice. And then I went on and included beings in this realm, you know, like people in a hospital, people with HIV, people with many, many different, you name it, the disease that you're familiar with, you know, people who are lonely, elderly people, abuse, you name it. You can cover the gamut. Because, you know, at a certain point when you go back and back and back in your life, you hit the age of 2, then what are you doing wrong? You know, it's just ignorance at that point. And then it's like previous lives. Okay, so, well, I'll speak for myself. I can't remember my previous lives right now. But thinking like this, I see that I've been in every realm, numerous, multiple times. And so I felt like not only was I doing this just for piddly old me, but for all beings. And that gave my practice some juice. So I'm very happy to share that with you. You probably know this already, but it just makes me happy every time I think about it. And then, of course, the mind gets cranky some days, and not even that works. And so Venerable Children the other day was saying, well, we need to have someone develop a pill. Well, yeah, that would be good. But I think the pill is bodhicitta. But the problem is, it's a tough pill to swallow, because what it demands of us is responsibility. And so then another day in this same book on page 600, Lama Zopa started giving reasons to cultivate bodhicitta. Because, you know, our minds just get cranky. My mind gets cranky. And so he tells the story of seeing someone who's very old and obviously blind, and they're at the edge of a cliff. And I can see that the person, if they continue walking another 5 steps, is going to step right off the cliff and plunge to their death. And so any one of us in the room, if you're doubting if you have bodhicitta, you would immediately spring up, if your body allowed it, and race to that person and grab them and save them from this terrible death. And he says, that's what all beings are like who haven't met the Dharma. Probably that's what I'm still like, and I've met the Dharma in some moments. But he said, you know, we have this potential. We have this human precious potential. We've met the Dharma. We have these precious teachers. We have some knowledge, and we can help people. And it's our responsibility now that we've met the Dharma to develop ourselves to our best ability in every lifetime, so that we can help all sentient beings who are like the blind person just about to plunge and go off the cliff. So that's a very compelling reason that helps me on cranky days. And so, in sum, the pill, I think if we look at it like this, I used to be a teacher, but you didn't guess that. So we all agree, we all want happiness. We want to be happy. We do not want suffering, but we do want meaning in our life for sure. And the pill is bodhicitta. That's the pill. We have to take the pill, and then we have to assume responsibility for that. And one last thing. So someone the other day, even though we're in silence, it's amazing what people can come up to you and ask you. Noble silence. There's a note up there, noble silence. Someone asked me, what does the grain of rice mean? And so what this means for our retreat is that we should start off gracefully and gradually. And that if we do this, we'll gain momentum so that we're at the full speed of our retreat, you know, sort of halfway through. And then we sort of start tapering down as we reach the end of the retreat. If we stop here, I think probably we die. But we want to sort of taper off so that we can sort of reintegrate ourselves into whatever life we live. And then the other thing you have to do is you have to get rid of this. That number thing, and you burn that so that you're left with this. Okay. I hope that helps. Oh, sure. Lama Zopa's book, Teachings from the Vajrasattva Retreat, an essential guide, in addition to the teachings on Venerable Churchen's website, and all the other books that you have from the teachers, and Alan Rim, and Shantideva's guide.